Welcome to Blueberry Hill, a typical Nordic neighborhood outside the city center. A few humble households with electrical cars parked neatly outside. And here are the neighbors. There is Mr. Hansen, who likes to travel and enjoy his life. You have Mrs. Svensson, a happy driver of her electrical car. Then there is Mr. Toivonen, the enthusiastic owner of his very own solar panel. Yet that solar panel of Mr. Toivonen is not so rare anymore. Like all those electrical cars around, solar panels have started popping up around the hill. Indeed, there are changes taking place these days. There is the political agenda, having started the move towards a greener society, and people are embracing the new gadgets available. So, what does the political agenda and all these green gadgets have in common? They are pushing the need for a more sophisticated and smarter grid. Traditionally, Blueberry Hill have provided electricity through the process of regular production and one-way transmission. Now, instead of just consuming electricity, these households, such as Mr. Toivonen's, can start producing electricity. This can only work if the grid is monitored and managed properly. On the one hand, new gadgets that use a lot of electricity are being introduced to the grid, putting unusual stress on it. On the other hand, the introduction of gadgets that produce electricity creates the need for smart systems, which will enable that production to be put back into the grid. To ensure reliable grid operation, it was necessary for Blueberry Hill Energy to either reinvest heavily in new cables and transformer stations, or put in place a smart system which will enable them to control load and distribution more proactively. Blueberry Hill Energy has chosen to install such a smart system. The installation of so-called energy service devices, more commonly known as advanced smart metering systems, has taken place. The move towards the green society has begun. Mr. Pettersson at Blueberry Hill Energy is enjoying a coffee while overviewing the smooth operation. Blueberry Hill is moving towards the green society, and Mrs. Svensson is moving with it. As the proud owner of an electrical car, she is eager to save the environment by reducing her consumption of fossil fuels. Now that Blueberry Hill Energy has installed a smart meter to her house, her engagement doesn't have to stop here. The smart meter has a so-called HAN interface, short for Home Area Network. It will make real-time data on the household consumption, power and production available to Mrs. Svensson on her smartphone. This new data enables Mrs. Svensson not only to monitor her energy consumption, she can also manage it, saving both grid, environment and money. Mrs. Svensson has parked her car outside, ready to charge. But as we know, she's not the only one. With the new data in hand, she can now choose to postpone her car charging to a more appropriate time, picking a time slot where the grid load is less, meaning there is more available electricity, and the electricity is cheaper. The same active choices can be made with regards to clothes washing, dishwashing, the heating up of the house, and so on. And the logic is rather simple. When the load and price goes high, Mrs. Svensson can choose to save. When the load and price goes low, she can choose to consume. At Blueberry Hill Energy, Mr. Pettersson is happy to observe that the active choices made by flexible consumers is helping them balance their loads and secure stable delivery to the whole town, just as they expected when they installed the new system. Darkness arrives, heavy winds come soaring into the hill, trees fall over the power lines, causing outages in several places. A washing machine stops working, houses go black. The smart meters react. The time of the outage is being registered, at the same time alerts are being sent. In Blueberry Hill Energy's control room, the data is soaring in. They quickly locate the affected households. The zero-wire fault triggers immediate action. The smart metering system automatically disconnects power supply from Mr. Hansen's household to avoid fire or other severe damage in his house. At the same time, servicemen jump into their cars to fix the remaining problems. The customers receive a message. In the end, Blueberry Hill Energy reports the total downtime in the grid. A report is sent to the authorities and information is sent to the customers regarding the compensation they will receive due to the downtime. The sun is shining and Mr. Toivonen is happy. He is one of the green pioneers who have installed solar panels to his house. He has a smart meter which measures energy flows, both coming in and going out. When Mr. Toivonen's energy production is larger than his consumption, he can sell the excess energy and receive compensation for the net production. Many of Mr. Toivonen's neighbors have also become prosumers, so has some of his friends and colleagues. Micro-production has become very popular, and Blueberry Hill Energy faces a new challenge. How are they going to manage the new distribution flows in the grid? Increased local production requires a higher degree of information flow and adds complexity in the distribution system. With the new advanced smart metering system installed, Blueberry Hill Energy is able to manage the transfer from central to local production and from one-way to bi-directional flow and distribution of energy. Blueberry Hill Energy now has access to masses of new data from the low-voltage grid. Not only does the data make it possible for them to monitor the voltage quality and load of the grid, they can even use the data to analyze long-term impacts to optimize network investments, as well as introduce dynamic pricing models. The move towards the green society has begun. But what will the future bring? What we know is that new production and consumption patterns will develop. Also, the continuous growth of data volumes keeps adding further complexity and challenges to the grid operation. The smart metering systems will have to measure the consumption every 15 minutes or even measure every minute if desired. It will have to measure voltage, load, delivered quality, active and reactive energy and power. It will have to register outages and their durations, as well as send and process alarms. It will also have to keep track on prosumers' net production, and so the list continues. This means that ever smarter monitoring and management applications, as well as greater bandwidth capacity, will be needed. Luckily, Blueberry Hill Energy's smart metering solution can be adapted to this reality as they go along. First of all, the system's communication solution is installed with extra capacity, leaving plenty of room for future updates. Second of all, future updates will be done remotely, meaning that as soon as settings in the solution need to be changed or new software needs to be uploaded, this can be done from Blueberry Hill Energy's control room. We like to call it future-proofness. Mr. Pettersson is at his desk. Alarms, overload, and phones from angry customers are building up. Data levels soaring on his screen. Transformation station and cables are building up around him. Then he wakes up in his bed at home and realizes it was just a nightmare. He checks his monitoring app and finds that everything is smooth sailing due to the smart metering system. he goes back to sleep with a big smile on his face.